Welcome to Pera's Playbook. This is your host, Alex Pera. Let's open up our playbook and see who our guest is. Please enjoy. Welcome to episode 186 of Pera's Playbook. Today we're joined by Steve Wheatcroft. He's a former professional golfer, had 170 PGA Tour events with one runner-up, 7 top 10s, 175 Korn Ferry events with 2 wins and 18 top 10s. He had 11 total professional wins. He's the CEO and founder of the Mulligan Foundation and also the founder and host of the Uncomfortable Chat podcast. So we're happy to have Steve here this morning. How's it going?
It's going well, Alex. I appreciate you having me on, man. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you on. I've been trying to talk with more golfers because it's been something that I've been getting a lot more interested in here the last couple of years. But you've got plenty of things beyond golf that we can discuss too. So I like, obviously the better conversations, the better podcasts are when there's endless opportunities and what you can talk about.
No, I'm gonna flip the script on you here and be the question answer. How's your golf game?
Not great. It's but
No?
but if I am being honest, it's only my second year golfing. So I had
Okay.
no interest in golf growing up as a kid.
Yep.
And last year when Nick Dunlap won the the American Express as an amateur, that I
Yep.
started watching that weekend and I was like, man, this is pretty interesting. I like this. This is sweet. So I
For
started
sure.
watching golf, and up here in Michigan, winters are horrible, so you can't get out and do anything. But as soon as the snow melted, I bought myself a set of starter clubs and I started golfing, and now I'm obsessed. I have a membership at a local club, and I'm playing at least 3 or 4 times a week, and just
Good
consumed
for
with
you,
it.
man. No, that's awesome. Yeah, that sport will do it to you. Once you get the bug in you, man, it hooks you pretty good.
Yeah. And I have a couple friends that are in the same boat. I mean, I have some that have been playing their whole lives, but I have a few others that just started within the last couple of years too, or a few that maybe they played when they were kids and then they had, a few years where they didn't pick up their clubs and now that we're all golfing, they're getting back into it. So it's a great thing to get together with your buddies and be outdoors and just shoot 18 or whatever.
For sure. For sure. It's great when you're single or when you're married, but when you have kids, then all of a sudden that 5 to 6 hour time commitment becomes a little tougher. And it's funny, even when I was playing on the tour, my practice time went from, hey, just I wake up in the morning, go hit balls, go play, go do whatever I needed to do at the golf course all day long to, okay, let me tighten this up here and where I can get hopefully about the same amount of work in like a 3 hour stretch where it's just focused on, get in, get your work done and get out so you can get home and help the wife with the kids. But yeah, when you're young and don't have the time commitments, by all means, get out there and play as much as you can.
Yeah, and I work at a high school, so school's out, summer's off. I mean, I work part-time in the summer. They have like a summer school deal. But it's perfect to be able to go out and golf, multiple times a week. Because once the school year's in, I'm too busy. You can golf in the fall, but it's just there's so much going on that it's
Yep.
hard to get up there.
Yep. You're in your golden time, man. Get after it.
Yeah. So that's kind of where I wanted to go first is, what do you think is the most important thing for beginner golfers to think about, to focus on? Is there like a couple of things that are just important for people to think about or realize when they're just starting out?
Yeah, first and foremost, because this game can beat you up, is have fun. It's the number one thing because I think that the more people get into the game of golf, especially at the professional level, but even just as somebody who's playing a few times a week or a few times a month, even just have fun with what you're doing. I used to tell amateurs when I would play with them in pro-ams, and they were out there getting frustrated as can be. They're throwing clubs, they're yelling, they're cussing, and I was like, look, you don't practice enough to get this angry. I'll be blatantly honest. And it was like, it meant as a joke, but it's like, if you're practicing all day, every day, and then you come out here and you lay an egg and you don't play very well, it's one thing. But when you pick up your clubs twice a month, do you really expect to get that good in twice a month? So just have fun doing it. Whatever you're doing, just have fun out here. And even if it's a bad day, you're out on a golf course walking around. It's a beautiful day. You're out in nature. You're playing with your buddies. You're probably having a couple beers. Just enjoy it for what it is. And that's the number one thing. The more you get focused on the game, I tell people all the time, like, just don't go to the range and just stand there and whack golf balls just to whack them and say it's practice. Try to really focus on your practice. Have like a some kind of a plan behind your practice. So if you want to work on your golf swing for a little while, work on your golf swing, but then, put yourself in pressure situations while you're practicing because that's going to help translate. Everybody always talks about, hey, I hit it great on the range, and then when I get to the golf course, I just can't do it anymore. Well, when you stand on the range and you hit, 55 9 irons in a row, you're going to learn how to hit it eventually. Like everybody's got some hand-eye coordination. You're going to figure it out how to hit that one club if you just stand there long enough. That doesn't mean when you go out on the golf course and you have one swing with it that same swing is going to appear. So you need to hit those 55 9 irons and then you grab, the same club, change your target completely, go through your routine like you would on a golf course, and then try to hit the same shot. Try to hit a focused shot that you're trying to hit at 138 yards with a pin, a certain part of the green, but like really focus that part of your practice so that you don't just stand there and get repetitive and go through the motions.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much consistency you need with golf, and that's what's hard if you're only playing a couple times a week or a couple times a month. You can have, I mean, there's some holes where I'll have some really nice shots, and then there'll be just some awful, terrible shots. It's hard to have that consistent, everything is good. But like you said, I'm not practicing all day, every day. I'm not,
Yeah.
yeah, I've become obsessed with it, but it's not my career. I'm not devoted to it like a professional golfer would be. And I mean, I have some friends that are exactly like you said, where they, they're cussing, they're throwing clubs and all that. And I actually said that to one of them the other day, like, you don't play enough to get mad about this.
Yep.
We play a couple times a week, if that. And, a bad day of golf is better than being at work or doing all these other things you could be doing. So just like relax.
Yep. And that's the thing. You're gonna have some bad holes out there. It's impossible to stay completely focused for 4 hours or 5 hours or however long you're out there. It's just your mind's gonna wander. It's gonna, you're gonna take a couple holes off mentally without even realizing you're doing it. But and that's okay. It's just like the more you do it, the more you learn, hey, look, I'm going to hit a shot. I'm going to focus on the shot. And then I'm just going to talk to my buddies about Monday Night Football or the hockey game coming up or whatever it is. Just take your mind completely off of golf. And then when it's time to hit another shot, you refocus and go through it that way. And then but again, to your point, like you're going to have a few bad holes. It happens. I mean, it happens to the best players in the world. It's hard to stay focused that long.
Yeah. Well, let's kind of use that to segue into like the ups and downs of
Mm.
professional golf. I know we've seen it recently with some star players like Rory when he completes his Grand Slam, something he's been chasing, and he hasn't played well really since then. He played
Yep.
well at the Travelers, but he had a couple of really bad weeks. And obviously there's the whole mental side of that. He accomplished something he was chasing for so
Yeah.
long. Maybe he took his foot off the gas a little bit. But
Yep.
I'm sure you can attest to that too with your own career. Just you have some awesome weeks and maybe you miss the cut 3 weeks in a row or
Yep. That's just, I mean, the game's stupid in that way. It's just everything can be there. It's, a great example. My first ever time that I won on the Corn Ferry Tour in 2011. I won by 12 shots. It was ridiculous. It's still the largest winning margin of all time. It was just one of those weeks, everything clicked. But I was playing such perfect golf all week long. The next day, I had to go try to qualify for the U.S. Open. It was 36 holes, and I walked into the club and I was like, I'm going to win this thing. There's no doubt. It's just a matter of how big am I going to win? How I'm easily going to qualify. Just how easy is this going to be today? And I shot 77 in the morning on the easy of the two golf courses. I made five bogeys, no birdies after shooting 29 under par the last 4 days. That just goes to show how mentally fried I was. And I realized it about five holes in because I just assumed it was going to pick right back up where it was. But having a big lead all week, it just took a mental toll on me day in, day out. And then by the time Monday morning came around and I got about 9 holes in, I was exhausted. Mentally, just, physically a little bit, but mentally, I was dead. I had nothing in the tank. And I kept trying to force it to happen. And it's like, nope, it's just not here today. But that was my first time ever doing that as well. I'd never won before. I didn't know the mental toll that it was going to take on me. So that was just one Corn Ferry Tour win with a qualifier the next day. What Rory accomplished was something that five other people in the world have ever done. And he's had so much pressure every single year on the Masters going into it. It's like, hey, is this going to be the year? Is this going to be the year? Like you're made for this golf course. And it just, the toll that he was under every single year, and then to finally get it done. I mean, this is at the time, we'll say one of the best players, maybe the second best player in the world, whatever he is. But I mean, he's been up there for the better part of 15 years now. And the fact that he was missing lob wedges from 80 yards at the Masters by 20 yards offline, like that shot on 13, I don't think people understand how horrible that golf shot was. And this is the best player in the world, maybe at the time, and just standing there with a perfect lob wedge number, and he hits it 20 yards right where he's supposed to. And then on the last hole, when I mean, he got the hard shot out of the way. He bombs a drive 320 yards up the fairway, and he's got a lob, or, gap wedge in his hand to a left pin and misses it in the right bunker. It's like that's not talent. I can promise you. That's all nerves, 1,000%, because he's just trying to get this thing to the clubhouse. And once he did, you could see the exhaustion in his face. I mean, he just fell to the ground, started weeping, and like every emotion in the world comes out of him. But like, how do you get yourself back up for the next week? Like when you go to the next week, how is that going to be like an impactful week for you? How are you supposed to get so fired up for it when you just got to the top of the mountain and now they want you to go climb like a little hill? Like you just climbed Mount Kilimanjaro and then you got all the way down to the bottom of it and somebody says, "Hey, see that little hill over there? Go climb that." Like, but you need to feel the same things that you felt at Augusta, or you need to feel like you need to be so fired up to go climb that mountain. It's like, no, I can't go do that right now. I got nothing left in the tank. I used it all up on that one week. And that's why, I mean, you got to give him a little bit of grace for a few weeks. And, the US Open obviously did not go as planned. And that's one of I used to work at Oakmont, so I can attest that's the hardest golf course in the world. And they had it set up brutally. I'll be interested to see how the Open Championship goes for him, being it's in Northern Ireland. It's his home. It's his backyard, basically. And he's super fired up to go there. I mean, he's been open and honest about, that'll get me up again. So we'll see how that goes. But, to your point, like David Duval, when he won the British Open, he got his first one and woke up the next morning and he was like, that was it. Like, that's all. Like, I thought this was going to bring me happiness, joy. Like, I was going to be a different human being. And he's like, I just woke up and it was another day. And now there's another golf tournament coming up. And it's like, it almost ruined his career after that because he just couldn't get himself. I was like, what am I fighting for? I thought it was going to give me so much more than what it did.
Yeah.
So we'll give Rory a little bit of a grace period here. Granted, he's had some issues with the media as well that haven't gone over well, and he's had some stuff off the golf course that I'm sure is gonna come out at some point or has been wearing on him, and so who knows, man? Everybody's going through something out there. You never know what they've got going on behind closed doors. You can see them, you can watch them between the ropes, but once they leave those ropes, who knows what's going on?
Yeah, I feel like, especially in the modern world where there's sports betting and,
Hmm.
fans just expect athletes to be machines that don't
Yep.
make mistakes. When Rory missed that putt that sent him to the playoff, I know, reading it, people just, they went nuts. How can he miss that putt? And, in that huge, well, it's a huge moment. There's a lot of pressure. He's human.
Yep.
He won it. Why does it matter?
Yeah.
Don't jump all over the guy for missing the putt that sent him to the playoff. I mean, it just doesn't.
I mean, if I took give me any of those guys that were posting about his putt and take him to the local golf course and stand there and say, all right, make this 5 footer for me. They're probably going to make it or they're going to come close to making it. But if I tell him, if I put 4,000 people around the green to watch and I say, if you make it, I'll give you $500,000. If you miss it, you owe me $100,000. Go
Yeah.
ahead. You don't think he's going to feel some nerves? You don't think his hands are going to shake? He's going to wonder why he can't feel his legs anymore, why he can't, like his hands are, the club face is moving all around because his hands are shaking so hard, or now all of a sudden he forgets what to do with his elbows when he's putting, or just something stupid. Like, it's amazing what nerves can do. So it's easy to judge from sitting on a couch. I mean, heck, we all do it and go, oh my God, there's no way he can miss this. But, I was a professional golfer. I missed a 1 foot putt a couple times. You just walk up, take it for granted. All of a sudden, thing pops off the putter funny, and it's like it happens. It's going to happen, and it's dumb to say, but I can guarantee you, all those 4 or 5 footers that all the amateurs just rake back and go, "Oh, that was good, that was good." Well, it's like, yeah, it is good for you, but it's not good for us because we have to go out and putt everything out. So you're gonna miss some of those, I promise you.
Yeah. Yeah. I hate when people take gimme putts when I'm playing with them. because there's you
Yep.
can't promise me that you're gonna make that. I was playing with
No.
some random guys the other week, and I had I don't know, a 6 footer, and they said you can pick that up. I said, really? I'd
Yeah.
probably miss that. There's no,
Yeah.
you know,
And it's like, where do we draw the line? Is it two
yeah.
footers? Is it 4 footers? 6 footers? Like, when do you start, then all of a sudden you start talking about handicaps. So what'd you shoot today? Oh, I shot 81. Well, you also gave yourself 9 putts inside of 6 feet. So,
Right, you were
yeah.
behind a tree, so you moved your ball out, and you know that.
Hmm.
You know,
Yep.
I'm gonna
That's
take
why.
relief from this. I got relief here.
That's why, everybody's hard on the players during the US Open. And, there was talks all the time about what would a scratch golfer shoot there. And I'm like, I don't know, 92, 94. And everybody's, no way, no chance. They could shoot 70 something or maybe low 80s. No, I promise you they can't. And, there's some of the best players in the world were, mid 80s. And they do this for a living. It's like, no, you take an 18 handicap, he's going to shoot 150 out there if he's lucky. Because he's not going to find a fairway. He's not going to be able to get out of the rough. And those greens, he'll be on for, 30 minutes at a time sometimes because he can't figure out how to putt greens that are 15 on the stimp meter where you just touch it and it goes 8 feet by.
Yeah,
So it's easy from a couch. Let's put it that way.
yeah, those greens were insane, and they're huge.
Yeah.
Some of them are
Yeah.
just ginormous. You can land on the green, but now you've got a 90-foot putt.
Yeah.
Or what did JJ his putt to win was that what 70 feet or something
64
like that?
feet.
Yeah,
Yep.
just
64 feet.
crazy.
Yeah, it's weird. A lot of those greens they look massive on TV and according to the square footage, yes they are, but when you factor in that, 40% of the green isn't usable, like if you hit that part of the green, it just funnels off into the rough or it funnels, somebody missed the second fairway, on the back part of the green, but it had too much spin on it and it ripped all the way down the green and rolled 60 yards off the front of the edge. And it's like he went to a back pin, not a front pin, like went to a back pin and it rolled off the front of the green and came back 60 yards. So their greens are, yeah, I mean, I can attest they are goofy, but they're very fair. You just have to know how to play them and you have to really control your golf ball.
Yeah. Well, and I think JJ proved that you can score there. I mean, he had various spurts where he was scoring under par. I mean, obviously it's supposed to be a hard test, but it's not impossible.
Yep.
It didn't I mean
No.
the USGA came out and they said we're not trying to embarrass people. We want to find the
Hmm.
best players in the world. We want to see who rises to the challenge and I think
Yep.
JJ proved that you can rise to the challenge and other golfers have proved that you can rise to the challenge. When Dustin
Yep.
Johnson, there's guys have proved it. Yeah, there's going to be tons of guys that shoot plus 17, but
Yeah.
everyone
Well,
has a
that's the
bad
thing.
week too, and it.
If the USGA wanted to, they could have made that place where 15 over par won the tournament. I promise you. It didn't take much. They used some easier pins that week. I mean, they could have got the greens faster if they wanted them. I mean, they could have really goofed that place up, but it was just a fair golf course with really long rough. That's all it was. And it's like you had to hit fairways, which nobody likes because nobody has to hit fairways at all anymore on PGA Tour. You just bomb it as far as you can and you hit a wedge onto the green and you make a putt. And so to have some kind of an onus on having to hit the fairway again, it throws a lot of people off. But it's like, no, that's what golf's supposed to be. You're supposed to hit it straight off the tee. And that's why JJ's, he's one of the best ball strikers in the world and he's been playing well all year, but he hit a lot of fairways when he had to hit fairways. And then he could hit the greens and then he could two putt and make pars. And that's all you had to do was just kind of hang around. And that's what he did.
Yeah, yeah, no, it was fun to watch. I mean,
Yep.
exciting. And you played in an Open, right?
I played in the U.S. Open at Pebble Beach 2010. So I made the cut, which was great. I got 4 days out there, but I finished 60th or 63rd or something like that. I finished well back, but it was just an awesome experience. I'd never seen anything like that. It was always my dream to play in a U.S. Open, and obviously Pebble Beach is one of my absolute favorites. I was the first group out in the afternoons. The morning wave was finishing up. They were pretty much done, and I birdied the third hole, and I just remember I birdied the third hole a few times, playing Pebble Beach and for other tournaments, but all of a sudden this roar goes up around me, and it's like I'm not used to hearing a roar on the third green. But that's just the U.S. Open. They got bleachers around it now. There's people everywhere. And then I had a 6 footer for birdie on six, and to go two under on the day. And I looked over at the leaderboard by the iconic seventh hole, that little par three down the hill, and I just looked at the leaderboard, and they had Ian Poulter's name at the top of it, and it one under par. And I was like, one under par is leading this thing right now. And I was like, I got a 6 footer to go to 2 under. And I was like, this can't be right. And I made the 6 footer, and sure enough, they put my name right at the top of the leaderboard. I was like, oh my God, this is incredible. And it's like you tell my parents were there. I'm like, hey, quick, take a picture before this thing goes south fast. It's like, at least I can prove to somebody that I led the US Open at one point in my life.
Yeah, right. Hey, that's more than most of us can say.
Yeah, exactly. It didn't last very long. I think it lasted about 3 holes, and then I was out of it again. But hey, I made the cut. I got to play 4 rounds, and just an incredible experience.
Well, that's what it's all about is experiences. I
Yeah,
had Don Beebe, I don't know if you know who he is,
yeah,
in
oh
my
yeah,
podcast, and I was talking to him about the four straight Super Bowls that they lost with the Bills,
yeah.
and I said, that had to have sucked, just to lose Super Bowl after Super Bowl, and he was like, actually. If I could go back, I wouldn't change a thing because I
Hmm.
went through that journey with amazing people and the experience was awesome. He said, Alex, in this world we live in now, people just look at the end result when you need to look at the journey, everything you've gone
Yeah.
through and how important that is. And that's something that's really stuck with me since talking with him.
Very much so. No, I can attest to that because obviously, I played golf for a long time and I wasn't the greatest player. And I was, one of those quote unquote grinders where you just somehow I had staying power. I would just stay out there and I didn't win on the PGA Tour. I contended to win, a handful of times. But looking, then I went through my own trials and tribulations, which I'm sure we'll get into here in a little bit. But looking back now, it's like, would I do that all over again? Would I sign up for that again? And it's like, you know, it's easy to say no, but at the same time, it's easy to say yes. But you look at the experiences. I've gotten to hang out with 3 U.S. presidents. I've gotten to go. I hung out in Vegas for 3 hours with Michael Jordan, just sitting there talking, telling stories. I sat at a bar with Wayne Gretzky. We went to a hockey game when he was coaching, and then we all went out afterwards. And he and I sat at the corner of a bar and talked for 2, 3 hours and drank a bottle of vodka together. And just, I mean, I hung out with Justin Timberlake, Bill Murray, Clint Eastwood. I mean, all these people that, it's not like you just walked up and shook their hand. I actually sat there and hung out with them for a while, which, looking back, it's like that's incredible. Like you don't get to meet people like this and you don't get to do things like this if you just got into a 9 to 5 job and or if you're working at a country club somewhere like I was gonna do. So no, I mean, would I have changed some things? Sure, looking back, but at the same time, like I wouldn't redo it. I wouldn't. I would have liked to have won on the PGA Tour. That was one goal that I never achieved. But, you can't replicate experiences like that. And it's, I've been very blessed in my life, and I got to do a lot of things that I never thought I was going to be able to do. So the experience to Don Beebe's point there is it's everything. I mean, he got to play in 4 Super Bowls. It's the biggest game of the world and he got to go through that whole process. Everybody talks about him losing 4 Super Bowls, but he also won 4 AFC championships, which is incredible. And all
In
of a
a
sudden, you
row.
get that, yeah, you get that 2 week run up where you're in the Super Bowl again. And I mean, there's just hope hanging there, like, hey, we get another shot at this thing. And he's got a bunch of his best friends around him, and those guys, won and lost together, so they were getting tighter every single year. They'd go through those losses, they'd come back hungrier the next year, and no, that run for the Bills had to have been incredible to be a part of, even though they lost.
Yeah, there's only two teams that make the Super Bowl every year, or any championship,
Yeah,
but we always give so much crap to the losers, even though it's like, well, if you're looking at March Madness in college basketball, if you're runner up, that's pretty impressive because there's 300 and some teams that are trying to
yeah,
make the tournament, and then 68 that actually do. I mean, so why do we give so much crap to second place,
yeah. It's the second best team in the the greatest league in the world.
Right.
Yeah, they're doing some things right, and I'm a Steelers fan, and I got some glory days there where we were in the Super Bowls, and I went to the one in Tampa and Dallas, and you think it just happens all the time, and that was 2010, and we haven't been back since. So it's like 15, 16 years later, we haven't had that run again. So you take it for granted when you're there, but there's something to be said for getting through those playoff runs, and it's that's why you have to enjoy the ride while you're on them because who knows when it's going to happen again.
Yeah. Aaron Rodgers. Hmm? What are your thoughts on that as a Steelers
Yeah,
fan?
we'll see. We'll see. I mean, it's better than the alternatives. I know it's a one-year deal. I hope he comes in there excited and motivated. I think it'll be nice that not all eyes are going to be on him. Like he doesn't have to carry the team. There aren't big expectations like there were with the Jets.
Yeah.
I wish they had kept Pickens only because I would have loved to have him to have 2 weapons to throw to. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll probably go 10-7 again, make the playoffs, lose in the first round to the Chiefs or the Bills, and then go through the same conversation next year and try to figure out who the heck our quarterback's going to be.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's not the same Rodgers where you can guarantee that you're in a Super Bowl hunt, but he's got enough game in him where he'll win you some games. I mean, he's still got game
Yeah.
left even at his age, and I mean, he's not as mobile as he used to be. He can't move around as good, but he can still sling it. He's still got that
Yep.
IQ, obviously, and he can make plays that other people can't make. So, I mean, it's a better situation than a lot of quarterbacks you could have starting for you.
Oh yeah. I guess we're gonna find out, right? That's the
Yeah.
fun part about the NFL. You never know. Maybe you're signing up for 4-13, or maybe you're signing up for 16-1. I mean, who knows? But once you get out there and get running, it's funny how teams can either gel or fall apart very quickly after, week 6, 7.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I'm excited.
So you've got your own podcast, the Uncomfortable Chat podcast. You've had guests, Big Ben, Jay Billis, Frank Nobillo, plenty of golfers, other
Yep.
personalities on it. What made you want to start a podcast?
I guess this would go back to So I'll give you kind of the fast version of my life after golf. How about that? And then we'll start.
Sure.
It kind of all rolls together, but that's where the podcast kind of came from. I don't want to tell the podcast story without telling the rest of it because
Yeah.
it'll make a lot more sense. So I got done playing golf in 2019. I still had status out there, but I was just burnt out. I was tired, exhausted, mentally fried, just didn't want to do it anymore. I had 2 kids at home that I wanted to be a dad, and got tired of FaceTiming during birthday parties, and so I was done. With COVID, I ended up with 35 starts, I think, if I wanted them, and didn't use them. Right, so I got into the financial world, was in there for about 3 years, but about the second year in, I started waking up, just not feeling right, kind of depressed, down in the dumps, didn't know what was going on. The next day, same thing. Next week, same thing. A couple days turned into a month, turned into 3 months. It was just, I was in a full blown depression and I didn't know why. Then I had a big case was supposed to go through. And unfortunately, the guy texted me that morning and said, "Hey, look, we're going to hold off on this for a little while." And it was much needed commission that I needed and our family needed. And I kind of had a panic attack. It was 7:15 in the morning. I'm here by myself at the house and my heart rate started flying. I started sweating. And I walked over and poured myself a big old glass of vodka with a little bit of OJ on top, sat down and watched Sports Center. And about 20 minutes later, realized how relaxed I was, and enough to go make another one. Sat there, watched a little bit more Sports Center, got myself showered, changed, went to work, and that became, I'm not proud of it, but that became my new way of life. And it was the easiest way that I dealt with depression was just to numb myself with alcohol. So I was a functioning alcoholic for the better part of 2 years, and it was the darkest time of my life. I mean, I was as isolated as you could get. I didn't want anybody around. I didn't, I put on a happy face all the time and faked it in front of everybody, but I was miserable. I absolutely hated myself. I hated everything about it. And I mean, I had no reason to be, right? I have a beautiful wife, 2 great kids. On the outside, it looks wonderful to everybody else, but I was just absolutely miserable. And yeah, just didn't know why. But I started getting health problems. Go figure. Surprise, surprise. Alcohol was just burning through my body, and eventually, after enough trips to the ER with different things, enough was enough, and I checked myself into a treatment facility because I needed help and I wasn't able to do it on my own. And it was the best move I ever made because I went in there and I knew 2 days into it that I was never going to drink again. Right? That wasn't the problem. That wasn't the issue. It was the depression behind it all. And I just used alcohol to cover it all up and to numb myself because it was a lot easier to numb myself than to actually face everything and fight it head on like I'd done my whole life. Um, so that's what I did. And I spent the rest of the time trying to figure out who I was again and who was the new me, because I think for so many years, Steve the golfer was who I was. And that's how I knew myself. It's one thing if other people know you as Steve the golfer, but I started to realize that's how I knew myself, and that's the only way I knew myself. I didn't know myself outside of the game of golf, and that's what hit me the hardest. And I kept trying to work through that, and it wasn't working. But then eventually, with the treatment and getting my head clean again and being sober, it started to come back. I started waking up clear headed again. I started waking up motivated. And it took me a few months once I got out of there I wanted to make sure that I was okay. Like I had to learn how to be me again. I know that sounds really stupid, but I had to learn how to be myself because I liked the Steve that I was for 43 years, and then all of a sudden I hated the Steve that was around for like 2 years, 2.5 years, and so once I did that, I made sure my job as a husband was going well. I was a good husband. I was a good father. I had good friendships around me again. I had a good inner circle. My hobbies were good. Like my head was right. I still felt like I needed to do something else, and I didn't know what it was at the time. I started making some phone calls to some friends of mine that played on tour, some agents, some caddies, talked to a bunch of different people, and said, "Hey, look, guys, here's what I've been going through for the last 2 years. Here's kind of my story. It's not, it's kind of dark. It's not, I'm not proud of this, but this is real life." I said, "Do you think the guys out there, are there guys struggling with this on the PGA Tour? Do they need to hear this story?" And every one of them to a T said, "Oh my God, yes, it's getting so bad out here. Like you have to tell everybody your story because you can help a lot of people." So I ended up writing a letter. It was about like a 5 minute read, just kind of going through my life and the last, especially those last 2 years. And I was getting ready to send it to all the PGA Tour players through, headquarters. They were going to send it out for me. And at the last second, I just decided to put it on Twitter instead. I don't know why. I just felt like more people needed to read it. And as soon as I hit send, I did what most people do. Like, what the hell did I just do? And freaked out. And I took the dog for a walk because I just had to get out of the house. And I came back about an hour later and I looked at my phone and it had I think 100,000 people had already seen the letter. And I had messages from ESPN, Golf Channel, NBC, 150 text messages, voicemails, you name it. And I knew it was very real at that point. And if that many people had seen it, I knew that the message was going to hit home to a lot of people. And I was getting over the course of the next 3 weeks or so, I was getting hundreds of messages from random people I'd never met before, talking about how much that letter helped them, or I got many messages from alcoholics that said, "Look, I can't remember the last time I didn't have a drink, and I've made it 4 days since reading your letter. I'm excited for the next chapter, and I never would have done this if I hadn't read your letter." Things like that. So I knew that there was an impact there, right? So long story short, I decided to start a foundation, a nonprofit. And so I started the Mulligan Foundation, which I know we're going to get into here in a minute too. But, it was designed to originally it was just going to help kind of professional athletes, PGA Tour players especially. And then I realized that the stigma is so rampant still out there that guys are so, I could sit there and bang my head against the wall trying to get these PGA Tour guys, these grown men, to realize that it's okay to not be okay, and it's okay to work with a therapist or work with a psychologist of some kind to kind of keep your mind at ease. And but I said there's got to be a better way here, so we started working more on the grassroots level with the First Tee program, the American Junior Golf Association, the PGA of America. And so that's where we're attacking the mental health stigma and trying to give kids resources, let them know what we've been through. And we're partnering up with the Kevin Love Foundation, the Michael Phelps Foundation, people like that are very passionate about this as well. But the more voices, the better for this stuff. And that's kind of where the podcast, the long-winded way of answering your question here, but that's also where the podcast developed from. I call it the uncomfortable chat, and it's basically anything but. We talk about. It's a fun, laid-back sports podcast for the most part, with a mental health backbone to it. So we talk about real life, we talk about parenting. Not too many people are bringing Ben Roethlisberger on a podcast and talking about how he raises his kids and what he tries to teach them on through sports and through life and whatever. But that's kind of what we do. We talk a bunch of football for a little while, and then we'll talk a little bit about that. I had Ryan Leaf on the podcast yesterday, and it'll be coming out probably today. Former NFL quarterback, obviously, was supposed to be the number one draft pick. Peyton Manning went number one. He went number two. Peyton Manning's a Hall of Famer. Ryan Leaf went to prison. It's a wild story, but again, it's very similar to mine, where he went through recovery, redemption, and now he's on the other side of it, speaking to kids, to adults about his role, and that's why I wanted to have him on. We got along swimmingly well when we talked a few weeks ago, and it's a great pod. But it's just the more people talk about it, and that's the one thing I've learned is the most powerful thing I do is tell my story. It's crazy to me. I mean, I could offer people resources, I could offer them help, curriculum, whatever it might be on the mental health side. But when I tell my story, it's usually the most impactful because people aren't used to seeing and hearing that kind of vulnerability and openness from another grown man. It just doesn't happen in our society, right?
Yeah.
Um, and that's kind of where I kind of, most people don't want to throw their dirty laundry out there. I mean, I threw mine out there and then some to the world. And now my job is to speak about it and to put it out there in public and let people know that, hey, look, this is me. I easily could have just hid and, taken care of myself and then lived my life and not told anybody that what I went through. But I kind of took the bull by the horns and ran the other way and just said, I feel like I could be helping people because I never thought in a billion years that I would have gone through what I did. And I was in the darkest moments of my life. And, to be able to come out the other side of it, I want to help people avoid what I went through. So sorry to get very long winded there. Once I start going, I tend to keep going. But that's kind of the story. That's where the podcast came from. That's where the foundation came from. But it was kind of all wrapped together. And that I just, again, if I'm not going to tell my story, I wanted to open up a platform for other people to talk about their stories. And that's why the uncomfortable chats. It's been a great podcast. It's been fun. I mean, I don't really make any money. I do it a lot of times just for fun and to help the spread the word on the foundation and what the work we're doing there. But I've had a lot of great guests. Everybody's been, more than willing to come on, and it's been fun. I mean, I'm sure you can speak to the podcast side as well. It's fun getting to chat with other people. And for the longest time, I didn't do that. I was so isolated all the time. I didn't want anybody around, and now all of a sudden, it's like it's freeing to talk about anything. So
Yeah. I
yeah,
completely agree. Everything you said, I think it's so important, and that's always been kind of my mentality with the podcast too. I feel like I have a similar viewpoint as you. Like when I have athletes on, we'll talk about sports for a little while, and then we'll dive into something a little more kind of like we're doing now. We talked about
yep,
golf for a while. Now we're talking about mental health. I've had multiple athletes on that, former NHL players that do similar things that you do. They've got mental health foundations and mental health groups that's their sole focus because they went through some very serious stuff, throughout their careers. And it's
yep,
people, relate more and people open up more when they hear somebody else talk about it, especially somebody that's been a professional athlete.
yep,
Regular people, hey, if that guy played in the NHL or the PGA Tour and he's opening up that he has struggles, it's okay if I, as a regular guy, open up about my struggles.
yep,
So I think, and that's kind of where the playbook, like in my name, like, Paris playbook, like, every sports team has a plan for their game, but we all need a plan for life. So that's kind of where
yep.
like that my name came from. And I just want to have meaningful conversations with everybody from Division 3 athletes to actors and because everyone's got a story, a unique story
You
that
got it.
is interesting. But I'm the same as you. I don't make any money. It's just very enjoyable. Love having conversations and meet a ton of wonderful people, many of them that I'm still connected with that, I text every once in a while and yeah, it's very rewarding, the podcast world. I really enjoy it.
It is, and to your point, everybody's got a story. Everybody's going through something. It doesn't matter if you're an accountant, if you're a teacher, if you're a lawyer, if you're a professional basketball player. I mean, everybody's got a story of some kind of perseverance that they've gone through in their life, whether it's, schoolwork, whether it's trying to get onto a team, whether it's, but, it's amazing how interesting some of them can turn out to be, and you never would think they were. And, if you went out into public right now and you said, "Hey, do you guys know who Steve Wheatcroft is?" No one's going to know who I am. Um, if you maybe a couple golf circles, it's like, oh yeah, I remember that name or something along those lines. But it's like I'm nothing. I just did a fun job, and they put me on TV for doing what I was good at for a little while, and that's the only difference between me and everybody else who works. It doesn't make me a better person because I played professional golf. It just means that my name's a little bit more known than some people's for a little while. But it's that's the one thing I learned, and it's probably led to some of my mental struggles there for a while was I was out of the game about, 3 minutes and the whole world kind of forgot that I played golf. And it was funny how fast it happened because, Ryan Leaf and I were talking about this yesterday. It's like when you're out there, you think you're a big deal. no matter how big you are. If you're on the PGA Tour, at some point in the back of your brain, you think you're kind of a big deal. Or if you're a quarterback in the NFL, you think you're a really big deal. And then all of a sudden one day you wake up and you realize like, no, I'm really not a big deal. Like I thought I was a big deal and I built myself up in my head, but I'm really just a person. I have a life. I live I have a story and I did something fun for a few years, but now I'm just like everybody else. And that's part of like the AA program with Alcoholics Anonymous is like I went into those first few rooms terrified. I was more nervous than I was over any putt in my life, I can promise you, because I just felt like I was so out of place. I didn't belong in that room. I was better than that room. I was better than those people. Why am I here? How did I screw up my life so bad? And then I looked around and I started to realize it doesn't matter where everybody came from. And when I was in there and I had to tell my story the one time, I looked around and I go, my friend over here is homeless. He's getting ready to go back out on the streets when he leaves this center. And my friend over here is going back to jail. And he's going back to work as a construction crew. Like I played professional golf. We're all in the same damn room right now because we were fighting the same disease. And it doesn't make me any better than anybody in this room. Like alcoholism doesn't discriminate against anybody. It's after all of us. And you learn quickly that, we're all just humans trying to get through our lives and, we're all walking to the same place. It's just how you get there and what you do along the way that changes your trajectory. But when people start getting big heads, like I did for a little while, I wasn't even like, believe me, I was the most self-deprecating golfer you'd ever met. Like you would have thought I was a 12 handicap if you talked to me while I played on tour. But at the same time, something in the back of my brain still registered that I was a pretty good golfer, and it was a pretty cool thing that I was able to get out and meet all these people and live this life. But when you set yourself up and you build yourself up, there's no place to go but down when you're done. And my thing now is like no matter what profession you're in, at some point you're going to retire unless you die on your job or whatever it is. If you're a professional athlete, if you're a lawyer, if you're a doctor, if you're whatever, you're going to retire for at some point, and you sure as hell better know who that person is before you retire, because the last thing you want to do is get to retirement and not know who the hell you are. And you based your entire identity on what you did instead of who you are. And that's
Yeah.
the part that obviously scared the crap out of me is because I woke up one day going, I don't even know who I am anymore. And that's because I based my entire identity and self-worth around a stupid game of golf, right?
Yeah.
And but yeah, that's what it's a far more common story than you think it is. And people just basing their identities around their profession. And that's why when you meet people, it's like, hey, tell me about yourself. And they're like, oh, well, I'm a lawyer. I've done that. It's like they almost always lead with their job. This is what I do. Okay, I didn't ask what you did. I asked who you are. Like, tell me. And before I would have been like, no, what do you do? And it's like now I'm like, tell me about yourself. And because it's easy to say now looking back on it, but just I care more about the person than I care about what you do. What you do is probably going to be part of the interesting. It's going to be the interesting part of a lot of it, um, but at the same time, it doesn't define who that person is.
Yeah. I feel like that's a huge problem more in sports than in anything because people they look at professional athletes and they think that guy's must be living a easy life, right? It's got to be great because he's
Hmm.
making lots of money and he's with all these famous people all the time and life's got to be easy. But then
Yeah.
people don't realize, like you said, that I mean you're another human walking the same path. They only identify with athletes with their sport. So if everybody around you only thinks of you as your sport, it's hard not for you to think of yourself as only a golfer, only a football player, and that it's not a good mindset to have because that's just your job. Right? You just have a
Yep.
cooler job than some of us, but it's still your job. You still go home at the end of the day, you brush your teeth like the rest of us. You put your pants on the same way. You're not some, mutant alien. You're a
Yep.
human, but
Yep.
with the way of the business machine that professional sports has become, now sports betting's in the equation, the constant media coverage, just consuming all of
Yep.
it really, eats everyone up and it's just you're just product. That for some people that's all these athletes are. It's just a product and you're expected to be a machine. And
Yep.
I can't imagine having to deal with that because you want to live a normal life. I'm sure plenty of these athletes do, right? They have families. like you said, on Saturday you're
Yeah.
trying to enjoy a birthday party, but you've got people at the park pestering you, paparazzi, and how it's
Yeah,
just
just want to be a normal person, right? And that's what we always joked
uh,
about on the tour. It's like you wanted to be somebody who was making $2 million a year that nobody knew. Like you could go to the movies and no one's going to bother you, or you could go to dinner and no one's going to know who you are unless you're a massive golf fan. Like that was the perfect world. And if I ask, 10 people, hey, you get to be any athlete for a day, who do you want to be? Michael Jordan and Tiger Woods are going to be two of the biggest answers in the world ever, right? And then you look at them and you break them down. Tiger was the greatest golfer in the world, for sure, not even a question. But look at what he went through. You don't think he had his own mental struggles? You don't think, oh, it wasn't, you can chalk it up to sex addiction or whatever he talked about or whatever it is, but I mean, you know what's going on. He was trying to find an outlet, trying to find some way to live a life. And then you look at Michael Jordan and you watch The Last Dance, the documentary he did, and he's sitting in a hotel room and he's talking about how, all people always talk about, I'd give anything to be Michael Jordan. He's like, you can be me for a day. That's easy. Try being me for a week. Try being me for a month. He's like, it's awful. He couldn't wait to retire because he just wanted to be a normal person again, right? And those are the two greatest athletes in the world. Now all of a sudden you take some podunk, grinder of a PGA Tour player that's out there flying Southwest 35C, missing flights and getting laid over in Jackson, Mississippi, and trying to get home to his kids because there's a birthday party the next day, and he's missed 3 cuts in a row, and now he's sitting in hotel rooms week after week after missing cuts and alone with his dark thoughts. And I mean, that's the stuff people don't see. They see Scotty Scheffler holding his wife and kid on the last hole. Hey, he made $4 million this week. He's getting ready to hop on his private jet and go home. And, he's getting close to that status where he's not going to be able to go out to dinners. He's not going to be able to do things. But, yeah, it looks great on TV and everybody thinks it's great. But, where are the guys that missed the cut? Have you followed any of them? Have you looked into their lives? Have you you know what about the guy who's 180th on the money list who hasn't hardly made anything this year and he's home going through a divorce, or he's the wife's trying to take the kids from him, or he's got an alcohol problem. I mean, just there's things like that that nobody ever sees until it's too late. Or unless the athlete comes out and open. Grayson Murray, the former PGA Tour player who took his own life, everybody thought he was in the greatest place ever. And I'll be honest, I was one of them. And I reached out to him for help when I was at my depths. And I just said, Gray, I need help, man. I'm in a really bad place here. I know you beat this thing or you've battled it. And turns out he was battling it when I reached out to him. And, the alcoholism came back and he's fighting with his fiance and he's doing all these things that, if you looked on the surface, he's having his greatest year ever. He won on the PGA Tour that year. He made $3 million. He's engaged to be married. Holy shit, he's guy's got it going for him. And all of a sudden he withdraws from a tournament. Everybody goes, there's something going on there. And he takes his own life the next day. And now, then all of a sudden the stuff comes out, from the backside of what he was actually going through and the demons that he couldn't beat. But again, unless he comes out or does something drastic, nobody ever knows that stuff. But that's the stuff that just doesn't get written about. They don't write about that stuff because it doesn't get ratings, it doesn't get clicks.
yeah,
I'm saying the struggles, not the suicide part, but like
right.
they want to talk about the best players in the world and why they stink. They don't want to talk about, hey, here's what day to day life is like for guys that are on the bottom of the leaderboard. So,
Yeah.
I mean, everybody, and it's not like a woe is me kind of thing. Believe me, don't take it the wrong way. We're still very blessed to be out there playing for millions of dollars every week. And you do have the chance to go out and make 7 figures if you have a good week of golf. But at the same time, I just, everybody thinks it's so great, so golden, such a perfect life. And it's like I played 14 years out there. And when I got done, I basically didn't have a penny, to my name through that. I had a nice retirement account waiting for me. Um, but as far as like the day to day, you can look at it like, oh my God, he made $4 million. I'm like, that's $4 million over 14 years. Then take out taxes, then take out all my expenses that I had to pay. I'm paying 150,000 a year in expenses when I'm on the PGA Tour, with caddy fees and hotels, flights, the whole thing. It's like you can do the math. It's I probably could have made more as a Walmart greeter if I'd done that for 14 years. Um, But again, to your point earlier on, it's like the experiences. You can't put a price on experiences. So yes, financially, would I be in a better spot if I had just taken a job doing something else? 100%. But would I have ever gotten to live the life I lived? No, not in a million years.
Yeah. Well, money doesn't buy happiness. I mean, money is important, right? You need it to pay your bills and get food on the table and all this stuff. But if you look at the people with the most money, they're not just automatically happier people.
Nope.
Uh, you-
We talked about we talked about this yesterday on the pod because Ryan Leaf, obviously made $31 million with his first contract. And I I said money doesn't buy you happiness, it buys you peace of mind. That's all it is. It buys
Yeah.
you the freedom to go, look, my wife and kids are going to be taken care of. We're good. We're good financially. Like we don't have to worry about money. All it does is take a worry off the table. But it
Yep.
can't buy you happiness. You can go out, you can buy your boats, you can buy your, planes, your jet skis, your whatever you want to, you can buy all your toys and things that, that brings you happiness. It might bring you happiness for a couple afternoons, but that doesn't bring you overall life happiness. It allows you to do different things and it gives you the peace of mind to know that everybody's taken care of. That's one worry that I don't have to worry about.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think it's great. Your Mulligan Foundation, all these athletes coming out, sharing their stories, because it's going to help other professional athletes. Like we said, it's going to help regular, everyday people. And for such a long time, there was such a stigma around mental health that, talking with other professional athletes, they were like, we couldn't talk about this. Nobody cared. Nobody wanted to hear our problems. We just bottled it all up inside for year after
Yeah.
year. You were expected to go out and perform. Nobody cared what you had going on at home. It didn't matter what you went through. They expected results.
Yep.
And I feel like we're getting closer. We're still not there, but we're getting to a point where it's becoming more normal to talk about it. And that's all due to everyone opening up and kind of realizing that if the top isn't going to care, we have to make them care. We have to change this ourselves. Guys like you sharing your stories.
Yep.
And that's the only way, really, is for people to just have these meaningful conversations, talk about it, relate to each other, and just try to make it normal, right? I mean, everybody's got something.
Yeah.
You can't tell me that you're living a perfect life and you've got nothing
No.
going on. I mean, you'd be
No,
lying.
it's a complete lie if you hear that. And that's part of our goal is to, obviously change the narrative, help to break down that stigma, but also teach, when you're 5 years old, you don't know the stigma behind working on your mental health. Like as a 5 year old boy, you're not sitting there going, "Oh yeah, I remember I was born, so like I know that I'm not supposed to work on my mental health." No, it's a learned behavior, right? You learned that over time. Like, no, we don't talk about our feelings. No, we have to keep that to yourself, keep that bottled up, or rub some dirt on it. You're fine. Like you'll get over it. And so if we can start to teach these kids when they're 14, 15, 16, 17, and they're going to be, they're aspiring professional golfers and they're playing on the top of the top programs in the country or the collegiate ranks even for that matter. It's like, hey, look, this part's important. Here's a stage where Steve Wheatcroft, professional golfer, Michael Phelps, one of the best Olympians of all time, Kevin Love, NBA champion. Like these guys are sitting on a stage and they're opening up talking about how they wish they had done this when they were 13, 14, 15 years old. How you don't have to meet with somebody all the time. Just meet with somebody. If you're in a great place, just talk to somebody once every 2 weeks about life. Just open up to them. And then when you do have things going on, it's going to be a lot easier to get that stuff off your chest and talk with somebody. It's going to keep your mind free. And then all of a sudden, when that 15-year-old that started working with a sports psychologist at that age or a therapist when she was 15 because she's, got social media bullying issues and it was wearing on her. And then she worked through that stuff. Now she's 23 and she's on the LPGA tour and she's winning and they're like, hey, you keep talking about this Julie woman, who's this? Oh, it's my therapist, sports psychologist, whatever she is. Like she's been with me since I was 15. She's awesome. She's one of my favorite people in the world. She keeps me sane. But again, there's no stigma behind it, right? It's normalized behavior to her and it's now all of a sudden it's normalized to everybody around her. But if we build that up from the grassroots and take that up to the professional ranks instead of waiting till they're 25, 26, and then teaching them a learned behavior that goes against everything they've been taught since they were 13, 14, 15, it's a lot harder to break down because they don't want to be that person that like, oh, no, no, I can't show weakness. I can't show that I'm having mental problems right now. I'll just show up to the golf course every week, shoot 78, be throwing clubs and breaking things, and I'll just be an angry mess because that's easier for me than actually admitting that I need help and I need to talk to somebody.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where we're at now. That's why there's 23, 24-year-old kids on the PGA Tour that are making millions and they absolutely hate it. They hate being out there. They don't want to be out there, but they know that they're expected to be out there because they have a talent. They can hit a golf ball. But nobody taught them that, they were high school players. They were the best of the best living in their mom's living room. And then all of a sudden they go to college. They're the best of the best. And they're in a college apartment with four of their best friends. And now all of a sudden they're by themselves. They don't have their friends or their family with them, and they're traveling 30 weeks a year in hotel rooms. They're lonely as can be. Oh, and by the way, you have to play great golf because there's 15 golf writers in here waiting to interview you and ask you what the heck's going on, why you suck.
Yeah.
And by the way, when you miss that cut and you go home and you're sitting in your hotel room, you think anybody's going to be there to pick you up? No, you're going to sit there and wonder the same things. Why do I suck? You're going to look at Twitter and read about why you can't make cuts, why you have the chip yips, whatever it might be. So it can be a very dark place. And I think I've told the tour this, and I think they've done a really poor job of getting these kids ready for the PGA Tour. Like it's getting so young now that where we have 20-year-old, 17-year-olds are turning pro now for God's sakes to go out and play on the tour. It's like they're definitely not ready for that life, and it's their job to get them ready for it. And if they're not going to do it, that's where I come in and just try to
Yeah.
help however I can.
When you're 17 years old, the last thing you should be worried about is, am I going to make this cut? And I've got all these people or surround, like you should be thinking about the girl you kissed last night, the
Yeah.
buddy, like the
Prom,
whatever the
prom
movie you went to, or
invitations.
right,
Yeah.
exactly. Like this easy, it's just a life that most of us can't even comprehend.
Nope.
Um, and at that young age. Right? Most adults can't manage their money well, right? Give a
Yeah.
17, 18-year-old a few $1 million and see what happens. Like,
Again, it's like it's one thing if you go out there and you're the next best thing and you do play great golf and you start winning everywhere and maybe that makes you happy, maybe it doesn't. I mean, there's guys that are winning, you brought up Nick Dunlap earlier on. Like Nick's won twice already. You can watch him now and he's been open and on. He's miserable out there. He doesn't know what he's doing out there. He's been very open and honest saying like I have no friends out here. Like I have a heart like you're not going to walk onto the PGA Tour and all of a sudden you're going to make friends with a bunch of 30-year-olds or he can play his closest people out there are people that he played college golf against. That doesn't even mean they're friends, right? They just
right.
happen to play the same sport at the same age. But like his friends are all in Alabama, still in college maybe, or they're back in his hometown, or they're anywhere but the PGA Tour. So how's he supposed to feel comfortable when he's on the road? He's already won twice. He's the next big thing. And then at the Masters, they're berating him because he shoots 90 and he's a terrible golfer. And what the heck's happened to him? You don't think he's reading that stuff?
Yeah. Yeah, the
So
media definitely doesn't help with any of this.
no, heck no. They're not, again, they're looking for clickbaits. They're all Stephen A. Smiths waiting to happen where they don't even have real opinions anymore. They just say whatever they want to get bigger ratings, more clicks, more likes.
Yeah, it's almost like sports media, they're not trying to share what's going on in the sports world. They're looking who can we tear down, who's playing bad, and we're just going to focus on that,
You got it.
which is that's a whole conversation for another day.
Well, that's the other thing. Scotty Scheffler's like the greatest human being in the
Oh,
world. He's like the nicest guy ever. He doesn't have
yeah,
a skeleton in the closet that we've seen. And I mean, he's great with the media. He's great with the fans. And it's like you almost feel like the media is waiting for that shoe to drop just so they can jump on it and be like, see, he's normal. He's messed up like the rest of us. And like, no, just
yeah,
let him just do his job. Let him just
yeah.
play golf for a living. And you want to interview him, fine. He's handling all his media obligations. He's doing exactly what people ask. Just quit trying to find negatives in everybody and allow somebody to do what they love and without souring the experience for them.
That's a problem across society, though, as a whole. I mean, people are always looking for something that they can tear somebody else down with. Oh, you did this 20 years ago and you were a teenager. You're a horrible person. How dare you? Like, yeah,
Yeah.
okay, so I made a mistake. Am I alone in that? No.
Yeah.
Why don't we take a
You
look at
you
your past?
you were a perfect teenager.
Yeah.
You didn't make any mistakes when you were 13, 14.
Yeah.
Yeah, you want to go down that road? We can start opening skeleton. We can start digging through skeletons in closets, but I don't know too many perfect 13, 14 year olds.
No,
It's like,
but
oh, he put something on Twitter 8 years ago. You never had a few drinks and said something you weren't supposed to? Like, come on.
right, exactly. No, there's a
But
lot of things with mental health that still need to happen, but it's promising to see progress being made.
for
To see
sure.
the stigma start to be torn down. It's
Yep.
really ridiculous that it took this long. It's like, oh
Yeah.
wow, mental health's important. Like, what a shocker.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, that's what, at the end of my letter that I wrote to everybody, it's like, hey, look, if as a golfer, like if your swing stinks, you're going to call your swing coach. If you're fat and out of shape, you call a nutritionist or you call a trainer. If you get sick, and you get some infection, you call a doctor. So if your brain's all over the place and you're stressed out and like, why is there a stigma behind calling somebody to work on that? It's the same thing. It's a muscle in your body. If you tear your calf, you're going to call a doctor.
yeah,
Deion Sanders had a great quote. He's like, when you're a kid playing football and you get hurt, the coach always runs over to you. Are you hurt or are you injured? And the first time you hear it, you're like, what's that mean, coach? Well, if you're hurt, you can get up, you can play through this, rub some dirt on it, like walk it off, whatever you need to do. But like you can handle it yourself. If you're injured, we got to get a doctor, physical therapist, somebody here to help you. He's like, mental health is the exact same thing. Are you hurt or are you injured? We all play hurt every day. Like we wake up, I'm going through a divorce. I got financial troubles at the moment. I lost my job. My kids are being assholes at school. Whatever it might be. Like we all play hurt. But are you injured? Is this gotten to the point now where you can't fix it anymore? It's like call a doctor, call a therapist, call and talk to somebody. These guys are trained professionals. Their job is to help you through these things. And we talked about this yesterday. It's like the power of just talking about stuff, and the first time you release things, it's like a 10,000 pound backpack comes off. And it's like, oh my God, I'm free. Like I've never told anybody this. It's like the first time you tell somebody you're an alcoholic, almost every time they break down and crying, bawling. And I did the same thing. First time I had to say it out loud, I started crying and I couldn't figure out why. But then you realize it's out. Like your secret's out. You don't have to keep this secret, this burden anymore. And it is the most freeing thing you'll ever go through in your life because now all of a sudden you can live a normal life again. You're not trying to hide a life or a secret or something that haunts you. Like it's now you can work through things. And once you start talking, you usually can't shut up, as you can see by me. But
yeah.
it's an amazing feeling, and that's what. But again, it's I don't know. Everybody's different, I guess.
No, I completely agree. When I was in college, I would go to our counseling services. I had a counselor I'd meet with, and it was just like you said, just talking. I mean, that helps right
Hmm.
off the bat. Even if
Yep.
they're just listening to you, they're not giving you some monumental thing to go and try. Just getting all whatever you're dealing with off your chest, that stress, that
Yep.
that helps right away. But there's now we've got a shortage of counselors. Like we need more counselors, more therapists now that everyone is starting to, realize that it's okay to talk.
It's a good problem to have, man.
It
It's a
is.
good problem to have. Yeah.
It's better than the other problem.
You got it. Because otherwise, it just, they run to the bottle, they run to drugs, they run to something that helps numb their pain, but it doesn't fix anything.
Yeah.
I tell people all the time, it's like I go to AA meetings not because I'm close to drinking. And I mean, I can promise you, alcohol was my absolute best friend for the better part of 2 or 3 years. I would have put that ahead of anybody in my life. And I don't want to drink anymore. Like I go to AA meetings because of the therapy side of it. That's it. Like I know enough about the whole thing now that I could go get drunk this afternoon if I really wanted to. And yeah, I'd probably enjoy the first couple drinks. It would make me feel like give you that like euphoric feeling like we were all searching for. But I also know I'm going to wake up tomorrow with the exact same problems that are still here. Like I didn't fix shit. All I did was just numb everything again. So I have the exact same problems here. And now I've opened up this Pandora's box of where my life could lead again. And it was the darkest time of my life. So why would I try to go back down there for 3 hours of numbing myself? Like I'm good. So like, I'll take the therapist and the talking side all day long. I'll go to
Yeah.
if I feel the weird itch, like I got some mental shit going on, I just need to let loose. I go to an AA meeting and I just sit there and I'll listen to everybody else talk and tell their stories, or I'll sit there and I'll talk a little bit. But it's then I walk out of there relaxed again and freed up, and it's like you just feel like you can get stuff off your chest.
Yeah. No, bottling things up never helps. Shove it way down
No,
deep, and it's gonna
no,
blow up someday. It's gonna come, and it's gonna be even worse.
100%. Yeah. Nothing. Yeah, you're not gonna like just put stuff down there and think it'll go away eventually. No, no, it stays there. It just piles up on top of everything else you've done the same thing with, and then at some point something bad's gonna happen. And in my case, I just started drinking excessively. In other cases, that's why suicide rates are doubling in NCAA athletes. Like you just keep pushing things down, and eventually something bad's gonna happen. It
Yeah.
can't keep doing that. It doesn't dissolve. It doesn't go away.
Yep. So as
So.
we end here, do you have any other visions for the foundation? Like, moving forward, things you want to see happen with it?
No, I mean obviously the big thing right now. I mean we're already working with Annika Sorenstam and her foundation. We're helping some of the girls that she mentors. Then we're getting ready to announce, probably at least four American Junior Golf Association (AJGA) events. They're going to have ties to the PGA Tour events, which will be awesome. But we're going to create a big, Mulligan Foundation backbone to it, where it's a lot of camaraderie building events for the kids, and then some roundtable discussions up on stage during a dinner where we're all going to talk about the importance of it. Myself, other golfers, on the PGA Tour, the Michael Phelps and Kevin Loves and guys like that. That if we can get them involved, um, But again, we just want to keep telling our story, and wherever we, that's the fun part about this, and it's the fun part about running a nonprofit is like. We're not looking to make cash. We're not looking to sell services. Our goal is to raise a whole bunch of money so that we can go out and provide free services to people because there's so many times where people are like, man, I would, golfers especially, as weird as that sounds, it's like, yeah, I'd love some help, but it's like, am I going to pay this kind of money to sit there and talk to somebody? Like, I don't really want to do that, especially the juniors or the college kids. Like, no, I don't have $200 an hour to do this stuff. But it's like, oh, well, it's there and it's free. And it's like, now all of a sudden, it's like you give them a taste of what it can actually do for them. And now they know the importance of it. So, our goal is to just keep providing resources to people. But as I was getting to, the fun part is we can pivot and go anywhere we want. We want to, you want to help the PGA of America, you want to help the military, you want to help, like, we can take this thing in a bunch of different ways. Obviously we start with golf because that's near and dear to my heart. It's a passion of mine and it's the easiest avenue I have to get in. But if somebody told me 10 years from now that we're in the NBA, we're in the Major League Baseball, we're in different networks, I'd be like, yeah, I could totally see that. I mean, it makes sense. It's all the same stuff.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's kind of the vision. I mean, who knows? I mean, the foundation could be shut up and closed in two years for all I know. I hope that's not the case because I've seen the power and how fast it's grown in, the 9 months, whatever, since we've started, and how many people we've been able to impact so far. And that's without really any money raised. So we're going through our massive fundraising right now, just trying to get as much as we can so that we can help as many people and create as many projects as we can.
Yeah. No, it's a great thing. It really is
So
a great thing. Um, Anytime you're helping people, I mean, if that's your goal, if that's your true goal, like you said, a nonprofit, you're not going to make money to fill your own
no,
pockets. Your whole goal is to help people.
you
That's an
got
awesome
it.
thing, and you just hope I hope it keeps growing. I wish you the best of luck with it in the future, that you guys can just keep helping more people because it's super important. I mean,
I
that's the
appreciate
biggest
that.
thing.
Yeah, I mean, to all your listeners, the mulliganfoundation.org, go on there, check us out. You can contact us through that. You can donate on there if you feel compelled. But yeah, just check it out and spread the word. And yeah, the more people we can help, the better.
Definitely. Well, Steve, I appreciate you taking some time out of your morning, hopping on, sharing your story, and yeah, it was wonderful chatting with you.
Of course, Alex, I appreciate you having me on, man. Thanks again for having me. And, keep doing what you're doing, man. You got, what is it, 186 episodes in now? That's crazy.
Yeah.
You're working hard
Yeah.
over there, man. Keep up the hard work.
Thanks. Thanks for listening. Please stay tuned for more episodes soon.